Welcome everyone to a 3D LUT Creator Masterclass tutorial. As always, a really wide range of questions. I shouldn't be surprised given the complexity and integration of 3D LUT Creator in our lives these days. But it's really interesting because these questions, these topics go from quite advanced undertakings, the emulation of different camera systems, and the ability to then apply that and use that in other applications, but also points of revision, the attitude towards how we work with 3D LUT Creator, not just what we do with it, the magic and the magnificence that we can achieve with this wonderful application, but citing it within our workflows, citing it within everything else that we do, and not being confused along the way, as we have been saying in these recent tutorials. And let's have a look at these topics as I've orchestrated them for this week's tutorial. And notice I begin, as I have in recent weeks, with a clarifying statement. We all know 3D LUT Creator is a superior post-capture color grading, color editing application. But because you can't print out a 3D LUT Creator, you can't sharpen, there's no filters, you can't edit the drawing composition, you can't squish it, crop it, and so on. 3D LUT Creator is therefore naturally a collaborative and cooperative application. I think this is a really important opening distinction as to how we go about addressing these topics and questions. And therefore, as I say, this tutorial is dedicated for us working with 3D LUT Creator to help it do its work for us. The first topic comes from several participants. And yes, 3D LUT Creator is not exclusively, but primarily a node-based editing application. So let's spend a few moments clarifying to make sure there's no possible confusion. In other words, no possibility of that getting in the way of us working with them. And that broadens out into a more generalized engagement with 3D LUT Creator, which is, once again, how is it configured within our workflows as to what it is we ask of it to do on our behalf. What is it about what it can do for us that is so superior to the Photoshops, the Capture Ones, the Lightrooms of the world? Let's be really clear about this so that doubts or lack of confidence moving forward in working with this miraculous application don't become impediments in what we actually do, let alone how we do them. And a wonderful follow-up question from last week's tutorial about this prediction of and judgment about color balance, contrast, sharpness, and so on in our prints that are larger than our screens can display at print size. So I want to revisit this, but really the distinction is between soft proofing and hard proofing. Hard proofing, making test prints, soft proofing, emulating on screens. But along the way, the distinction is how can 3D LUT Creator not just efficiently, but profoundly support this process of both soft proofing, but also in particular hard proofing. And then another wonderful question following up recent tutorials, begging the question once again, how a title of a work or other words, phrases, essays in support of accompanying a work of art, how that frames both the way the curator intends the piece to be seen, interpreted, but also how it shapes, in particular, realist landscape photographs as the genre of inquiry. And I've added to this the notion of helping to turn the ineffable, that's something other within our pictures above and beyond the referent, into something resolved and refined, not just in honouring what was in front of the lens, but honouring us on the other side of the lens and the emotion, the motivation, the inspiration, the emulation, the reasons we took that photograph and brought it home in the first place. And then last but far from least, can 3D LUT Creator help us emulate in a different application the advantages of some other application? Can we process Hasselblad RAW files in Capture One and emulate the look and the presence of the Hasselblad Natural Color solution from their Focus software, and so on? So that's the setup, that's where we're going. They're the topics at hand, and it's going to be a delight to work through them with you and see if we can't help you along the way to resolve some of these questions, but also really facilitate what it is you're using 3D LUT Creator to do in your own lives. So the first question about working with 3D LUT Creator as an essentially node-based editing application. From the workshop, here's a summary of what we feel are essential skills in working with a program like 3D LUT Creator. Essential skills meaning not to be overwhelmed by the difference, the complexity, although it's easy to ascribe complexity to 3D LUT Creator, but the skills that are different to working in other programs, both in emphasis but also in execution. And have a look at the heart of these essential skills. Number of nodes, what selection tool to select nodes, unselecting, pinning, unpinning, resetting, and editing on both grids and curves. Again, from the workshop, advanced workflows, working on a grid. Here is the Mac version and the shortcuts. These are not all of the shortcuts, but the ones we find ourselves working with over and over again. And this is in part where the question came from. Moving our nodes on both curves and grids, and the precision from working with arrow keys, especially when we get to the nth degree of perfecting a particular adjustment. With a Mac, we need to add the command key. But the way we are notified in 3D LUT Creator how a pinned and selected node is illustrated, is shown to us on a grid compared to on a curve. Let's start with the color checker, where we can look at pure colors without any aesthetic judgment about them, and then look at the application on a real-world image. Why don't we go to our CL grids? C for chroma, saturation, L for lightness. Remember, these are slices, and you can see this down in the bottom corner, the LAB A channel and LAB B channel in our color models. These are slices that map hue against saturation. Now, we have this ability to activate the eyedropper and locate specific colors on our grids. But that yellow node and this magenta node in the default slicing through our color space are equally activated, but we can also reorient our grid slices so that value is in one grid on the neutral axis. Let's pin all the neutrals, and with our eyedropper clicking that element over here on a single axis. So the saturation and lightness or darkness of that red patch or this value or this skin tone or this sky blue can then be edited on a single grid with or without arrow keys while being locked in neutrality on another grid. And let's do something like that so you can really see a difference on the image. Now that's using the priority of a color picker to locate a particular element on a grid. And you can also see how the grid slices have been realigned right through that red. But we still have the axis angle slider. So I can move this around both to refine what is being incorporated in one grid versus another grid. The problem is when I get one grid perfectly aligned to edit certain values and not affect other values, but I also need to edit other values with equal assurance and sophistication on the CL grid. But if this grid doesn't cut through those other values and instead needs to be realigned like that, I can't edit both on a single CL grid. But there's nothing stopping me compiling and loading it as an external LUT and resetting everything. My grids are reset, nothing is turned on, but the effect is still there because in my mask tab, that is loaded as an external LUT. Now I can blend that LUT less or more to my heart's content and go back to my CL grid, pin all the neutrals, and for example, locate those blues, neutral on one axis, but active on another axis where I can adjust them to my heart's content without affecting what is in the other LUT. And as a combination of those two CL grids, or any other adjustments, masked or not masked, can be saved and batch processed or applied in LUT-savvy applications like Photoshop. Now let's take a real-world example. Here is one of Andre's early photo cinema works. Let's ingest this into 3D LUT Creator. There's our distribution of pixels. And let's load a LUT that I've already made, combining multiple CL grids and some masking to situate node-based editing, not just their shifting, moving, refinement and control, but for the creative outcomes we so desire. Straight away, you can see the slices through our AB grid shifted 15 degrees from their default position. We turn the effect off and on. Some areas aren't being affected at all. Other areas are being affected dramatically, before and after. And the dimensionality and the presence, look at how 3D this has become. Of course, that's why I'm using 3D LUT Creator. But here is the second CL grid where I have adjusted this slice through the orange yellows and the cyan blues, both elevating their lightness, also refining aspects of their saturation, before and after, but also our masking is turned on. Of course it is, because I've already loaded the first LUT where I've gone and adjusted all manner of other aspects. I turn that off and I turn that on. There's that first LUT, but using our HSP masking, I've also asked it to exclude the effect in certain areas and include it in narrow ranges. So these LUTs are then masked together according to those parameters. Turn that off and I turn that on. And there's a simple demonstration for real-world outcomes where effects needed to be sculpted into an existing picture to finish refining it, to resolve it to an extent that our feelings about it, we're fully satisfied. And we could then move on with the next image in the series. Which brings us to this third topic. And this is a follow-on, as I said, from recent tutorials. And do we really have to make prints at scale, test strips at scale? Is that the only way to really satisfy ourselves at the end of the day? The contrast, the density, the coloration, the mood, the mystery, as we were just looking at that beautiful photopolymer print. Or are there other ways of going about this? And can 3D LUT Creator contribute to them? So this is really a question of soft proofing versus hard proofing in our workflows. Now, I've got a 32-inch ASO color edge screen right in front of me that I'm working on. It's been a long time since I've made a print at life size whose image can be scaled 1-to-1 on that screen. Look at these prints behind me. They're meters in scale. But it doesn't mean with our advanced soft proofing hardware-based monitor calibrations, we can't emulate on that screen the tonal composition and the color composition. Not the drawing composition in the sense of I can't fit a 1.5 meter, 60-inch square print on a 32-inch screen. I can zoom in at print size if I've got my rulers and resolution set up correctly in an application like Photoshop, but it won't be real pixels, it'll be interpolated pixels, so I can't even judge sharpness on a screen, even this magnificent color edge screen from ASO in an application like Photoshop, let alone 3D LUT Creator. The tonal and color compositions, I can most certainly soft proof them on this screen, but not the drawing composition, not sharpness, not scale, and not effect, not presence. So from last week's tutorial, this snapshot in the back of our studio of Andre contemplating some of his 60-inch Canson Platine fiber rag test strips at scale. Now, how can 3D LUT Creator contribute to this workflow? We've shown you in other tutorials, digital fine art printmaking workshop and so on, how we go about creating these test strips. Let's do that in Photoshop. Here's another of Andre's current photo cinema images. It's 2.8 meters from edge to edge. Now, when we're making a test print, we grab a section of our image, which, for example, is the width of the paper and includes the key elements we need to see and evaluate at scale. We copy and create a new document. We paste that in. And then import this into 3D LUT Creator and make some adjustments. For example, in curves, maybe my Sat Luma curve to increase colorfulness in certain areas, boosting some of those values while neutralizing my darkest values by decreasing the saturation in my sat luma curve. Remember, the second coefficient is the histogram. Then I send that LUT back to Photoshop. There it is on a separate layer, and I print that through my RIP Mirage print, for example, and make my next at-scale test strip. Because we haven't renamed that LUT, as I go back and refine that LUT, our AB grid, let's locate these highlights, and there we go. LUT back to Photoshop. It's automatically updated. We send that through our RIP a second time, and on the process goes. So that's one example of how we integrate in our workflow the making of hard proof test prints with 3D LUT Creator, doing all the heavy lifting in the tonal and the color compositions, the things we can soft proof, but that we need to then render out to judge those other elements, the drawing composition, but most importantly, how they all come together and conspire and cooperate and collaborate to produce the presence, the dimensionality, those other considerations that are more considered than just the drawing, tonal and color compositions, in the sense that it is what they then mean and imply and enable us to move on thinking about the resolution of this image above and beyond just the structural components from which it is composed. Even though my screen cannot show the entirety of one of these large prints of ours, and because we're working at that scale more often than not, let me show you how we reclaim more in our soft proofs while working with 3D LUT Creator to refine, let alone resolve, our tonal and color compositions. Here we are at the gallery end of our studio, as we call it, where we've got projector lamps up here, just like in the National Gallery. Here I've got a zero gain cinema screen. There's Andre's print, life size, from a magnificent 14-bit projector, while we're 12 meters down the other end of the studio from the projected image. In this case, working on our Wacom Cintiq. We also walk around with a wireless Wacom tablet closer to the image and further away. We're using the depth and breadth of our studio as if it is a gallery where you interact with the image at scale on the gallery wall. But here, soft-proofed on a state-of-the-art projector screen with a state-of-the-art projector where we can interact as if it was a print. Now, again, the sharpness we can't make judgments about, unlike when Andre has his test prints here with the projector lamps above the raking light and the texture or lack of texture in the print surface. We can't read any of that, but it enables us to make judgments about the physical dimensions, the distances, the shapes, the sizes, those aspects of the drawing composition, while soft proofing above and beyond just the tonal and color compositions which we proof on the screen. But of course, we still make those test prints, as I showed you, iteration after iteration, to further refine, in this case, not just the relationships in the drawing composition, but its mystery, its presence, its depth, its conveyance of otherness. Anyway, there's a few observations in response to these wonderful questions and topics, in the hope that they will be of some interest, at least in furthering your own discussion around such considerations. And as always, we wish you all the very best in this wonderful world of digital imaging, and in particular picture making through the agency of photography itself. Till next time, take care. See ya.